Welcome to the Scottsdale Vibes podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Haygood. Really pushing for year-round school so I can have my kids in school year-round. Love you teachers, but love you more when you have my kids. I'm so excited to have Dr. Scott Menzel, the SUSD superintendent, with us today. We're going to go over the school year, some big changes, what to look forward to, and what to expect. So we'll be back after this short break with Dr. Scott Menzel. When it comes to protecting you, your family, and all your assets, you need to have someone that you can trust, and that's Jeremy Mueller of State Farm Insurance. Jeremy Mueller has lived in Scottsdale his whole life. How can anyone else know your needs more than someone who's been here and seen it all? Jeremy and his team are always ranked in the top % at State Farm. He cares, he's knowledgeable, and most importantly, he's always available. Don't believe me? Give him a call at 480-515-5223 or find him at jeremymueller.com. Parents, rejoice as our 22,000 students here in SUSD get ready to go back to school this week. The district was founded in 1896 by then Mayor Winfield Scott, and our A-rated plus district covers 112 square miles, serving most of Scottsdale, Paradise Valley, and portions of Phoenix and Tempe. Dr. Scott Menzel is entering his 6th year as superintendent of this district and 24th year in his career. So today we're going to be talking about this upcoming school year, what to expect, all the great things for improvements, what we as parents can expect and teachers. So I really want to start with you. We do this every year as a business owners, mid-year. What are your goals, Dr. Menzel, personally for the upcoming school year?
So I always appreciate the opportunity to talk about the upcoming school year, and glad to know that you're excited about sending your children back to school, and we're excited to have all of our students come back on Monday, August 4th. For me, every year we have a theme for our school district, and this year our theme is Our Focus, Their Future. So over the last 3 years, we had Because Kids is our theme, Elevate Excellence, Reaching New Heights Together was last year, and Our Focus, Their Future is our theme this year. Because at the end of the day, everything we do in Scottsdale Unified is designed to ensure that our students are prepared for future success. Whether they're a first-year kindergarten student or they're getting ready to graduate and go on to post-secondary education opportunities or the workforce, we're aligning our efforts to ensure they're prepared to be successful. And we have to be focused on that because there's all sorts of things that can be distractions. But if we want to be the very best district, not only in Arizona, but to compete with the best around the world, we have to maintain our focus on their future.
Well, how are you going to do that? Scottsdale has one of the state's highest rating. With that, how do you attribute that success to what you have done over the 6 years, and what are you going to continue to do to continue that success forward?
So relationships are the currency that helps drive a system forward. Relationships between our students and the staff, high quality teachers in every classroom, they make a difference. Relationships between our staff and our parents, because the partnership between home and school is absolutely critical to student success. Relationships between the district and partners within our business, so that when we think about ways in which we can enhance the learning environment, we're leveraging all of the resources. And Scottsdale is in a unique position because we've had such a supportive community over time. We've been able to offer so many great educational learning opportunities across our 29 campuses. But the focus is, how do we meet each student where they are and help them reach their full potential? And that means thinking about what are the things that engage them in learning. How do we help them have some ownership of their learning, so it's not just something that gets done to them? Because if you're sitting in a row filling out worksheets, school becomes boring, and the logical question for an adolescent is to say, well, why am I learning this? We need to have strategies in place to ensure that students are owning their own learning and understanding that what they're learning is going to empower them to be able to accomplish the things that they envision for their future. And so that's where we're shifting our focus.
How do you do that? Through programs, teacher training and stuff like that?
So in our teacher training, and I've at our back to school rally yesterday, I talked about a book that I read this summer called The Disengaged Teen, Helping Kids Learn Better, Feel Better, and Live Better by Jenny Anderson and Rebecca Winthrop.
I'll have this link in the description.
And they talk about two different axes. One is on the engagement continuum, and the other is on agency, or that ability to have some sense of ownership or self-control. You get to make a decision for yourself. Part of learning is failing. Sometimes the first time students experience that is when they're in college. And that can be very difficult to navigate
scary.
if you've never fallen on your face and had to navigate failure. So we want to be able to create environments where our students have high sense of engagement and a high sense of agency. So they call it in the book the explorer mode. These are kids who are willing to take risk, know that if they fail, they're going to be supported in that, and they're going to learn from that failure so that they can continue to grow. It's called the productive struggle. And so we want to be able to support our students as they navigate the system. And the other way that we plan to make this very real for our students is we live into our values. Our first core value is excellence. We have high expectations for our student, and in order for them to achieve those, we have to couple it with high support. And that's not the support that is enabling, but it's the kind that's empowering. It's that engagement and agency. Students need to have some choice. They need to understand the relevance of what they're learning. And so our staff understand that, and then we build professional development opportunities throughout the course of the year to help them enhance their skills.
To go along with that, and you mentioned this the previous question, how do you get parents involved in that aspect? Because I've witnessed parents save their kids, from doing a project or work or going and turning stuff into them at school when they forget things. How does that go into what you were just talking about?
That's a really good point. And I'm a father of two grown daughters now. I wish that I would have this book when my kids were adolescents. If you're teaching a child to ride a bike, they're inevitably going to fall and have to get up. And it's over a period of time. Now, you put a helmet on, you put some other things to make sure they don't get injured. But part of the learning process is taking some risk that way. And if you eliminate all risk, the unintended consequences, they don't know how to deal with setbacks and failures when they happen later on. And so part of the learning process is to create a safe environment for students to be able to experience that productive struggle. I use the analogy of a caterpillar that's about to emerge as a butterfly and has to struggle to get out of the cocoon. If we were to come along with a pair of scissors and cut the cocoon, the butterfly would never be able to spread its wings and fly, because in the struggle, some of the liquid that's in the wings gets expelled from the wings, and that's what allows it to have the ability to fly. So if you're well-intended by cutting the cocoon and you eliminate the productive struggle, you actually have the inverse effect of what you were hoping for, and that butterfly won't ever be able to fly. So we want to support our students so it's a safe way to experiment and learn, but not one of those things that creates the unintended consequence of not being able to navigate failure.
I love that analogy because I can see that. I have two kids as well, and you don't want them to hurt, right? Like emotionally, that's the worst thing as a parent, but that's how I remember things, and those core memories or those feelings of when that moment happened, you never want to feel that again. I would have known to not do the same thing if I hadn't failed that first time.
And most things that are worth doing are hard.
Right.
And we don't always get things right on the first attempt. Professional athletes didn't just step out of the womb and onto the field, right? I mean, it's hours and hours and tens of thousands of hours of practice and working to get really good at what you're passionate about. And they all have had some setback or failure, and they've learned to navigate their way through that. So school is a great opportunity for kids to develop the resilience necessary to persevere in pursuit of something that is meaningful to them.
Let's talk about a little bit. You said you had all the staff, and your big gathering last week as teachers came back to school and prepping. What do you tell your staff and administration when you bring everyone together to get the momentum ready? Listen, everyone's excited. It's the first few weeks of school, right? It's there. How do you keep that going with your messaging for staff and administration to continue the support to them throughout the school year?
So there are two parts of what we emphasize with our staff at our back to school rally. And the first is when we think about our focus, their future. I spent a little time talking about their AI impacted future, because what we know is that artificial intelligence is here. And we framed it in terms of both the power and the peril of AI.
Okay.
There's so many ways in which artificial intelligence is positive, and we've seen its use in the educational environment. It can help with lesson plans. It can help craft letters that are being sent home to families. There are a lot of ways that we can use it to offload some of the time-consuming tasks for teachers. We also know that there are some very negative aspects of AI. I told the staff about a TikTok video that I saw this summer with a devastating tornado in Phoenix. And the images
I haven't seen that,
real.
but I know that's not possible.
Exactly. It did not happen. But if you didn't live in the valley and you didn't know that we don't have tornadoes, we have haboobs and other things, but you didn't have a tornado, and you were somewhere in the Midwest and you saw that, and someone then made a plea for money to help the devastating victims of the tornado, it looks real. And so how do we help our students understand the ways in which artificial intelligence can, with deep fakes and other aspects of the technology, make something look real that's not? And so we've got an opportunity in the educational realm to help our students understand what AI is, to understand how it can be used for good, to understand the ways in which it can be weaponized and used for negative things. And then we also have to make sure that in the way students use AI, it's appropriate. There was a research study by MIT that looked at writing, and one group of students started with AI in their writing prompt. The next two groups actually had to do it the old-fashioned way, where they were responsible for struggling with how do I respond to this prompt. And then the third group of those two got some AI assist after they struggled with the initial response to the prompt. The researchers came back and then asked questions about what was written. The students who started with AI to do their writing couldn't remember what they wrote.
Right, because they didn't do anything.
Exactly. So you have to have the productive struggle. So when we think about preparing our students for their future, we have to understand and know and be ahead of the curve with respect to how we're leveraging AI for good and how we're educating our students to understand the ways in which it can have real negative unintended consequences. And so that's part of the framing that we used. The other is we really spent time talking about our district values, because in a polarized world where lots of people have lots of different opinions about things, our focus is on how do we help our students learn to read, write, do math, science, become critical thinkers, problem solvers. And we have to create a learning environment where each one feels seen, heard, supported. Right? Because school has to be a safe place. If you're going to fail, you want to do it in an environment where you know you're supported. If you're going to struggle, you want to do it in a place where you know you're safe. And so when we think about how we're going to elevate excellence and drive achievement forward, we emphasize the importance of every individual who comes through our doors. We want to create the most compelling educational experience possible. We want to be the premier destination district for any student in not only in Scottsdale, but in our neighboring communities, because we believe we have that kind of quality talent, and we're looking forward to being able to engage our students where they are and help them achieve their potential.
Let's talk a little bit about that talent pool we have here. What are you doing when it comes to initiatives, programming, and stuff like that? Anything new starting this school year at some schools that we can talk about, or what's been working that we're going to continue to grow on for our district as well?
So we talk about Scottsdale Unified, but not uniform. And we have a lot of really robust programming, dual language immersion, both in Spanish and Mandarin. We have Math Science Academy at Saguaro. We have STEM certified schools at Laguna and Navajo Elementary. Mojave is going to launch the Math Science Academy at the middle school in the Saguaro learning community. At Copper Ridge, we're launching an honors only program so that everybody's going to get that high level curriculum. What we know is this: if you raise expectations for students, they'll meet them.
They'll usually meet them, yes.
If you have
as a parent, I can set those standards and do it without schoolwork, so yes.
If you have low expectations,
they'll meet them.
They'll meet them.
Yeah.
And so we are continuing to work with our principals to ensure that the opportunities we're providing to our students are challenging to them.
Yeah.
But then we're building on the great legacy of the programs we have. So Cheyenne Traditional, high wait lists at the kindergarten level and full enrollment. We have some other schools where we're really working to grow enrollment, and we'll be tackling some of those challenges in terms of how we've seen our student demographics shift over the past 15 years because we've been declining in enrollment. So finding the right mix between how do we attract more families and what are the right educational programs to ensure that we can meet the needs of our students.
Speaking of needs, one of the big emails that came out this summer was the dress code change. There was some pushback and stuff like that. Discuss it. What are some of the other school rule changes, district changes, I should say, that have happened that we as parents and students need to be prepared for as well?
So really, dress code is the biggest one. And what changed was 2 years ago in the dress code under the parts that must be covered because they were labeled as private body parts was the navel, and that had been removed. And I would submit that in part our challenge was driven by inconsistent enforcement of the dress code that we had.
Okay.
And if you've been on a middle school or high school campus, or if you were at Scottsdale Fashion Square this summer, or you just happen to be out and about,
you just walk around.
You will notice that in the desert heat,
Less is more sometimes, Dr. Menzel.
It can be a challenge. And so the change that was approved by the board essentially indicates that you can't have an exposed midriff.
Okay.
When the rubber hits the road, the real challenge is still going to be enforcement of what's in the dress code. And we want our students to dress professionally. We want them to dress for success. We also don't want to engage some of the concerns where this is body shaming, it's targeted at females. Well, the expectation is that our boys and our girls both comply with the dress code. Neither can have an exposed midriff that creates an issue. And so we'll work through those challenges. I think we should set the tone to say, when you're coming to a learning environment, you want to be focused on the learning. And I understand the desire to make a fashion statement. I never made a fashion statement.
I was about to ask you that, but you answered
that was,
too quickly.
That was not me. I was the antithesis of fashion. But I understand, the desire to individualize, and what we want to do is create. I want kids to come to school. That's my first priority. Is that if they're not in school, then they're not getting the benefit of good instruction, and ultimately they're going to fall short of our learning expectations. So I want them to be there. We want them to be dressed properly. People need assistance in terms of getting proper attire. We can work through some of those as well. There's no shortage of moms of teenage girls who say, have you been shopping at the stores to see even how the clothes are made? Because it does present some of the challenges. So we're cognizant of that, but I don't want the focus to be on, and over-focus on what kids are wearing. I want the focus to be on how do we help our students succeed academically? How do we help them thrive in the learning environment? Because we're thinking about how we prepare them for their future.
Yeah.
And knowing how to dress for a professional environment is also pretty important, because when they leave school, there's going to be an expectation when they go to work that they also know how to dress properly.
Yeah. I mean, first impressions matter. It's a real thing.
Absolutely.
This is a city ordinance and law, but I know it affects the schools.
It does.
The whole electric bike situation. The middle schoolers and high schools all over our neighborhood and area riding them. Talk about that, because it is going to affect them. It is a law. They can't be over the 21 miles per hour and all that. How do y'all deal with this at school?
So we've had, since before this law, and last year Phoenix made it illegal for anyone under 18 to ride e-bikes.
Okay.
And we have some of our schools in a Phoenix mailing address. So we've had a prohibition of riding e-bikes on our campus, which means that if a student is bringing an e-bike to school, they have to not be riding it. They have to walk it onto campus. They can lock it up at the bike rack, but they cannot ride it on campus. That would be a violation of school rules. With the new city ordinance in Scottsdale, parents and students alike need to be aware that now you could be subject to some additional penalties from the city for violation of that ordinance. We will have communication in our monthly source that's online from our Director of Safety and Security, Josh Friedman, that addresses the e-bike situation. We also are going to work with the Scottsdale Police Department, because we want to help students and families understand the dangers and how to use e-bikes safely, because we have seen so many more of the e-bikes on the street.
They're everywhere, yeah. And that's the thing, too, is we did a whole podcast with Scottsdale Police about this. Go check it out. It's not new. It's actually, I think it's just informing people. It's never been allowed. No one's allowed to ride anything over 20 miles per hour. Then it's considered a motorcycle. Now your kid is driving a motorcycle without a license. Like, there's this whole bit to it. So they came on and talked to us about it too. So I was wondering how y'all are going to deal with that. Bob Parsons Foundation made a huge donation. Talk a little bit about that and how we're getting more. You mentioned a little earlier these community involvements and organizations to help our school district grow and help our students, thrive.
So we have a vast array of school district partners. I think one of the fun projects this summer, I got pictures today actually from some of the work being done related to the Boys and Girls Club expansion on the Tonellia campus, and I think that's where you're talking about the Bob Parsons contribution, and there's some others that have contributed a significant amount to take part of that campus, which was a K-8 school and now 6-8 only, and to put a Boys and Girls Club right there on that campus, and it's going to be a fantastic facility. The generosity of the business owners in Scottsdale and some of our more affluent residents who actually care about the next generation is pretty overwhelming. So we're truly grateful for those partnerships. If you are a young person fortunate enough to grow up in Scottsdale or being able to access one of our schools, you have a great opportunity for success and a high level of support. We have a backpack distribution thing going on in partnership with the city today for students in need. We have the Gainey Ranch Community donated 80 backpacks that were stuffed with back-to-school supplies for Tonalea
That's
Middle
awesome.
School. So we have story after story of generosity in our community, and it's fun to celebrate those.
I love that. I know you're not a fortune teller, but I'm going to ask this: what does the future look like 3 to 5 years for Scottsdale, as far as enrollments and schools? You know, it's a national problem. It's not specific to Scottsdale.
Right.
I want to emphasize that first. But we'll talk about Scottsdale. What does that 3 to 5 year plan look like for us right now?
So it goes back in part to one of your earlier questions about goals. Last year we embraced the language of wildly important goals, and in thinking about how you structure those, you have between 1 and 3 that are really the most significant levers driving your organization. Last year we had 3. I think we'll have 2 this year. The board will meet in August to finalize that. One will be around enrollment. And we are thinking about enrollment in terms of capture rate.
Okay.
So demographically, we have some challenges because we are landlocked, so there's not new housing that's really coming into Scottsdale, and some of the housing that's being developed isn't attracting people that have school-aged children. So that's part of our challenge, the demographic decline in the birth rate and the number of school-aged kids. Part of it is the capture rate, and that's probably where the wildly important goal will come into play. So of the school-age population that lives in our boundaries, about 52% to 55% enroll in our district. Others go to Basis, Great Hearts, Notre Dame, Xavier, Brophy. And with ESAs, they have money that follows them to some of those other choices. And with the ESA expansion, we didn't see a big loss in student enrollment because those kids were already enrolled in those options.
That's
now
how I
parents were
felt
just
too.
able to get the money to support that other educational choice. But for us, we want to create a compelling case for why parents should choose Scottsdale. When you think about the out-of-district open enrollment students, that drives our net capture rate to 75% or so in terms of the number. We really want to have a higher capture rate, but with declining enrollment, that means we have to ask questions that'll be difficult with respect to schools that stay open or how might they be repurposed. And some of that conversation is going to happen during the school year, because we might need to make some decisions for the 26-27 school year. And so this fall, we'll start some of those in schools that are significantly under-enrolled compared to capacity.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, every dollar we spend on an under-enrolled building is money that we can't spend in increasing compensation for our staff.
Yeah.
And so that's an important balancing act to address. I think when it comes to the ESA question, the biggest challenge is you have this significant expansion, nearly $1 billion of state investment, but no accountability or transparency in how those dollars are spent. We have to account for every dollar, and we're held accountable for how our students do on state level assessments. Those that get ESAs don't have either in a significant way. And so I would argue that it's really important, if we're going to be good stewards of taxpayer resources, to have accountability and transparency for every dollar that's appropriated from the state coffers. And so that would be my ask for our legislators, is to get serious about accountability and transparency.
Oh, that could go a long ways. Before we end, my favorite question, I'm going to change it up a little bit for you, but what are you so excited about for this school year?
So for me, every year, I have 3 major highlights. The first is the back-to-school rally with staff, because they're wearing the same T-shirt, they're excited to see each other, and they're getting amped up for students coming back. First day of school is always a highlight because kids are happy, staff are happy, parents are happy.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of happiness to go
Very
around.
true.
It's a very good day. And then I always look forward to graduation because it's a celebration of accomplishment. And one of the things that is really a point of pride for Scottsdale Unified is when we have our staff together, we ask all of the people who are working for us, who are legacies, individuals who are products of our system that have come back to work in Scottsdale, to stand. We have a ton of people who are products of our system, who are vested in our community, and they've come back to work in Scottsdale Unified. And so for me, it's always about the people. I love to see students succeed, whether it's in the classroom, on the football field, or on the courts, or in the performing arts. And so I would invite the community to engage. Take a look at what's happening, because it's pretty exciting.
Listen, there's really quick before they tell the parents where to get engaged, because there are a lot of ways. There's like Parent Square, Parent View, like all of them. So where do we go for information? Where do we find out stuff?
So susd.org /the source is where we have a monthly publication that talks about athletics, the arts. It talks about academics. It talks about school safety and security. You'll identify ways to engage community education. There are so many opportunities. If you're a parent, get involved with the Parent-Teacher Association in your school. There's a Scottsdale Parent Council where people who want to engage can. We partner with the Chamber of Commerce and Business and Industry to create work-based learning opportunities. So depending on what your interest is, there's a lot of places for us to connect you with the right resources. And if you're just stuck and at a loss, go to Let's Talk. It's on the front page of our website. And there's an Ask Anything button. You put that in there, we'll connect you with the right person, and we'll make sure that your interest and what we have needs for will be aligned, and we can work together.
Plenty of ways, basically.
Absolutely.
No excuses. I'm excited for this year. My kids are both starting new schools, moving up, and so that was exciting. Thank you for what you do, and especially to all the teachers and staff out there. Thank you so much for what you do, because I do not. It's the one job my son and I can agree on. I'm a terrible teacher, and he says he would fire me every year. So I'm out. I'm out. Best of luck, parents. Don't forget to get ready. Send your kids this week and be prepared. It is a flexible week. Everyone shows some, grace. We'll figure it out. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have the calendar of events.
Buying a home can be scary and sometimes frustrating, but all of that can go away with the right realtor. And that's where Shawn Shackleton with the Shackleton Group is here for you. Shawn has over 25 years experience in real estate. She's here to get you what you want and won't settle for less. She's experienced, knowledgeable, and understands this market, which these days is always changing. Take the stress out of your next home purchase by calling Shawn at 480-734-7277. You can also find her at theshackletongroup.com.
A couple of concerts are happening in Scottsdale this month at Talking Stick Resorts. We have Dylan Scott performing this week at August 8th, followed by Steve Earle and Rick Springfield, who will bring his 80s tour to the resort on August 9th. The 15th through the 16th is Night Trip Festival, Arizona, happening at Westworld, which is an electrifying 2-night journey through the cutting edge of electronic dance music. This 18-night festival promises an immense audiovisual experience under the Arizona stars, so you can dance till dawn surrounded by fellow music lovers in Scottsdale as well. And coming up the following at the end of the month at Westworld is the Arizona Black Rodeo, August 29th through 30th. So saddle up for the Arizona Invitational Black Rodeo on Labor Day. It is a high-energy, family-friendly event packed with bull riding, barrel racing, relay races, mutton busting, which is hilarious, and more. So you can celebrate Black cowboy and cowgirl history during the Grand Entry Parade. You can dance to music and more. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast listening app. You can also find us on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Have a wonderful week, Scottsdale. Keep vibing, and I'll see you around town.